Okay, I'm filming this way today because we are going to do some long form videos on YouTube. I am learning so much. In fact, I just learned that there's this setting called playback speed. So in the case that I get really excited and amped up and you can't understand what I'm saying anymore, there's a settings button that'll dial it back so I'm just a little bit more digestible. You're welcome. So if you ever ask an agent, how's the market? Is it a good time to buy? The answer is almost always, it depends. It depends on what you're buying, it depends on where you're buying, and it depends on your personal situation as to whether or not this market's the right fit for you. If you're the kind of buyer that wants the luxury of picking through and finding their dream home, or if you think that the seller's going to give you credits towards closing costs and negotiate repairs, well, then this market is for you. For the first time in almost a decade, we are seeing indicators of a market that favors buyers. So when I posted my video last week, I said, ask me anything. And what I got was pretty consistent, mostly agents asking me the same thing from all corners of the country. How am I handling this market? So what am I saying to a buyer who was pre-qualified for $200,000 more this same exact time period last year? The interest rate in September 2022 was 3.25%. Today, you're sitting right around 7.25. Back then, a $500,000 mortgage had a payment of $2,176. Today, that same $500,000 mortgage payment at 7.25% would cost over $3,400 a month. And keep in mind, this is just principal and interest. We're not factoring in taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA dues. Ouch, that's hard to swallow. But let me back up a second and explain what's happening and why that's significant. When I got my license back in 2002, rates were right around 9%. It was no big deal. In fact, perspective was a lot of buyers who remember the 80s when they were paying 17 and 18% interest rates. But you fast forward to the market getting better between 2006, 2007, 2008, and you're experiencing what we now call the mortgage market implode, or The Big Short, which is a fantastic movie and an even better book. The gist of it is that banks got greedy, gave out some bad loans, and numerous homeowners defaulted on what we now call predatory lending. Interest rates jumped on adjustable rate mortgages, and interest-only mortgages got called due with balloon payments. And while that all sounds really complicated, what you need to know is that banks behaved badly, and the government had to step in to heavily regulate everything. In fact, I'll share a little story time with you. There are a lot of jokes about the ninja loan, which is no income, no job, no assets. This is true. This was called a stated income, stated asset loan, where you could basically fog a mirror, give a social security number, and they would give you a loan based on what you told them your income was. No need to verify if you had a high enough credit score. To make things even worse, where I was working in Idaho in a new construction sales center, we would use future income. So if you had a 5-bedroom house and you were going to rent out that 5th bedroom for an extra $300 a month, the lender would use that income to help qualify the homeowner to buy even more house. You can see the red flags and totally understand why it crashed. In fact, in retrospect, I should probably be in realtor jail, but truthfully, that's just the way everybody did it back then. We were all guilty. So after the mortgage market crashed in 2008, everybody was a little upside down on those overpriced houses and those bad loans. So there was a short sale and a foreclosure period that I was involved in. Leave me a message below if you want me to deep dive on foreclosures and short sales. As a whole, the market kind of recovered in 2014 and equity returned and things kind of balanced out. So that was kind of the last time we saw a market that favored buyers. Is if you wanted to walk in, make a low offer, negotiate with the seller. It was like 2014, because after that, things stabilized. Sellers were able to get out from underneath their homes that were underwater. And now you've got us going 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 2020, COVID. So what happened during COVID was just an anomaly, and people went bananas for these 2 and 3% interest rates. And as a result, a lot of homes were sold for more than they should have been. I've seen stats that say, 75% of homeowners think they overpaid for their house, but 90% of homeowners have an interest rate under 6%. So this brings us to our problem, conflict challenge today. I feel like you're getting a whole history lesson on economics here. That wasn't my intention. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening now. This past May 2022, oh my gosh, this past May 2023, interest rates jumped more in a single day than they had in the 40 years previously. And this is all in an effort to combat inflation. Inflation's out of control, housing prices have been going up, they need to get it under control, and adjusting the interest rates is the easiest way to do that. So Despite what you're reading in the headlines, I haven't found any reliable source that thinks interest rates are coming down in the next 8, 12, 15, 24 months. You might see some home buyer incentive programs, but I think the majority of the experts want you to really wrap your head around 7 to 8% being the new normal interest rate. So this brings me back to the topic. Why buy now as opposed to in the spring of 24? The single best reason to buy a home now as opposed to in the spring is right now you have like zero competition. I'm out there with buyers every single day and they look at good options and they hem and they haw and they pass. Consumer confidence is shot. People aren't sure what's going to happen, and so they're just sitting on the sidelines and waiting. But the truth is we have a lot of sellers that aren't seeing the traffic that they expected. They're wondering why Bob and Nancy down the street were able to sell their house in 3 days for $60,000 over list just 6 months ago. Trying to explain to a buyer why the prices aren't going down, but the interest rates are going up is really challenging. But like I mentioned, there are 90% of homeowners with an interest rate below 6. 80% of them have an interest rate below 5. Without good options, they have no incentive to move. You can see how much their interest portion of their mortgage payment would go up. So they're pretty much content to sit where they're at. Our inventory here in Northern Virginia is about half of what it was in 2019. So those sellers that have to sell right now for whatever reason are super motivated. They're scared of the market, they don't know what's happening, and they're getting very realistic and motivated. So what does that mean for a buyer? It means you're going to get to keep all of your contingencies. You can do a home inspection. You can have an appraisal contingency. You can shop your interest rate. You can negotiate seller credits towards closing costs. You can negotiate repairs. With those contingencies in place, you have the protection to take your time, evaluate whether or not this home is the best fit for you, and change your mind if it's not. My job as an agent is to get people in and out of contracts. Contingencies are the way to do that. If you try and do this in the spring where it's competitive, you will be waiving your contingencies. I don't care about a home inspection. I don't need an appraisal. My financing's locked in. If anything changes, you will not have as many opportunities to back out of the contract as you do now, fall 2023. The next best reason to buy now is something that most first-time home buyers have no idea even exists, and that's the mortgage interest deduction. If you were to look at the structure of a monthly payment, you have basically 4 parts: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. There are going to be some communities that charge homeowners associations, but those are not fees wrapped into your monthly payment. So of the monthly payment, the principal and interest are what you have control over. The interest portion is what's deductible at the end of the year. It's called the mortgage interest deduction. So to give you an example, we'll go back to that $500,000 home loan. With a 3.25% interest rate, you're getting a 1099 valued at a little bit shy of $15,000. And you can use that to offset your income when you file your taxes. Little asterisk, please do get advice before filing your taxes. Don't tell your accountant or the IRS that Krissy told you could do this. Seek professional advice. Compare that to a $500,000 loan at 7.25%. Your 1099 at the end of the year is going to be over $33,000. So here's the bottom line. Yeah, you're overpaying, but at least you're overpaying yourself. Lastly, we're going to listen to Barbara Corcoran. Lady knows what she's talking about. She's been interviewed multiple times and she's telling the same story. If the interest rates drop to 6, to 5, to 4%, there's going to be a mad dash. It's going to be all hell breaks loose, end quote, Barbara Corcoran. If you're competing for houses because there's cheap money, Barbara thinks that you're going to see 10, maybe even 15% price increases. It's going to be nuts. Now, can you imagine if you are a homeowner when this happens because you bought in the fall like Krissy said to? Not only will you be sitting on a nice little bit of equity, but you're in every position to refinance from whatever rate you got into whatever rate it is. It's literally a can't lose. For the qualified borrowers out there, you literally can't lose. You get contingencies, you have the ability to negotiate, you'll have equity, and you can refinance into a lower rate. If you'd like to talk about your situation, please feel free to reach out on any of my socials. If you're not in the Northern Virginia market, let me know where you're at. I have a vast network of agents that I trust implicitly, and I can get you connected if they can help with whatever your situation is. All right, see you next week. Is almost $15,000. Hi. Are you cleaning?
Yeah.
Well, that's so kind of you.
Yeah. You want to come back around